Future Me. It's November 20th. The year is 2002. I'm 10 and a half years old. If I could give you one piece of advice about growing up, it's this. Just act normal. Don't be weird like other adults. Just be normal. Have fun. And don't be a bully. Last week, I was walking to lunch.
All right, good morning, church. It's good to see everybody here. I tell you, Baptism Sundays just make my heart almost explode. I hope you were blessed by each of those stories. All in today, there's 11 people being baptized, scattered throughout the 3 different services. So a special welcome to the family and friends and care group and cousins, whatever your connection is. We're glad that you came to support these folks that are baptized today. We're in this series called Dear Future Me, and today we're going to have a look at this idea of gratitude, of being thankful, not just a feeling that you have, but a pattern that you express, and understand more fully the impact that it has on us as people and how we can grow in it uniquely as Christ followers, how that gives us really a leg up, more reason to be thankful and more freedom to express thankfulness. I can remember even as a little kid, my parents, my grandparents leaning over and saying these 4 little words. What do you say? What do you say? When you were given something or complimented from a very, very early age, there was this idea that you needed to know how to complete that loop. You needed to acknowledge that gift or that compliment. What do you say? And before you could even articulate syllables very well, you learned how to say thank you, right? I'm sure that is true in every culture. The word changes to gracias or ngoy or whatever it is, but gratitude is something that is expected of people. To be able to express gratitude to others is not only good manners, it is good behavior, it is an expectation. When my wife and I had kids, we have 4, and when they were young, we decided we would take it next level. We weren't gonna wait until the child was, say, 2 and able to express thank you. That's even hard to say in English, right? And so we went with sign language. Some of you parents did that. Because a child can acknowledge a concept before they can articulate the words. And so we learned sign language. You can learn it today, just like this, means thank you, right? And you know how you say thank you very much? It is this. How am I doing, sign language crew? Very good. All right. Flawless. So gratitude is important, right? It has a huge impact. One of the groups of people that has suffered immensely from a lack of gratitude would be veterans of wars. Those who decide they will go off to a foreign land and they will fight a war on behalf of their country. For however many years, they sacrifice, they take great risks. And then when they return to their home country, often find that people are not grateful. They expect a ticker tape parade. They expect to be told, thank you for serving our country. But oftentimes, that thank you isn't expressed. In fact, in some instances, not only is there a lack of gratitude, but there is hostility. For people that didn't believe in the war, for example, now take their anger or their political views out on those very ones who fought the war. And so as a result, an inordinate number of veterans suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And sometimes that comes from what happened on the battlefield, understandable. But then it's exacerbated by the reaction people have when they are returned to their home country. There was a recent study done by Old Dominion University that took a group of veterans and decided to treat their PTSD with exercises in gratitude. See, they had become bitter on top of their PTSD. And so they said, all right, we want you to learn to be grateful, to write a gratitude journal, to do a whole host of things to see the impact that it has on them. Now, it certainly made them more grateful, but they also found that it administered to their PTSD symptoms. And so now becoming grateful is a standard procedure in treating of PTSD symptoms. Being grateful is good for you, right? Not only is it an expected cultural norm, but it's actually good for you to be a grateful person. One article I read this week in the New York Times talked about the art of thank you notes. In our digital and ever-efficient age, thank you notes, remember those? Handwritten, lick a stamp, mail it, are like something your grandma may have done, but they have gone the way of the digital age. This particular article says you can still be digital, you don't have to lick a stamp, but expressing thanks now takes on a heightened impact. If you actually write it out, leave a note on somebody's desk, send a card through the mail, take the time to express it in even an email form, that when people receive a note that just says thank you, that it warms their heart, it greases the relationship, that it is more powerful than ever because people haven't seen them in so long. You know, when you go to your inbox, I always go to my inbox with a sense of dread because it just means more stuff I need to read, more things I need to do, just something, right? I mean, it's rare that you're like, oh, I've got some extra time. I just want to check my email. But if you open up something that doesn't demand anything of you, it just says thank you. Wow, it's powerful, I've been told. No, not seriously. I probably get more thank yous than I deserve and maybe more than most people. But it is powerful when we express gratitude. So why then, if it's so good, why is expressing gratitude hard? Why do we miss the opportunity so often? Let me just share a couple of things. One is the fact that to give gratitude, thanks to someone else, it may impinge upon your sense of hard work that you did. To thank others for their contribution to the project may somehow in your own mind diminish the fact that you did most of the work. And so we may be reluctant. It diminishes your contribution. Secondly, let's be honest, it's an act of humility to thank someone else, to point out how they did such a great job, how they excel in this area. It requires you to take a servant mentality and to build them up. It's a little bit of a risk. What if they don't reciprocate? What if they don't appreciate your appreciating of them? And lastly, we conclude that somehow if I feel grateful, then that's enough, right? We all probably give ourselves a pass on the gratitude score. If you were asked, are you a grateful person? You would say, oh, yes, because you feel grateful. But so many times, it's gratitude that is unexpressed that leaves a distance, a gap in relationships. It is the expressing of gratitude where it is received, where people are encouraged, and where that relationship gap is closed. So, yes, gratitude is an attitude, but it should never just be an attitude. It should be written. It should be verbalized. It should be texted. It should be expressed. Otherwise, your warm, fuzzy feeling of being grateful remains a mystery to those who need to hear it. Here's the thing. Have you ever been the victim of that? Have you ever done something for someone and they haven't expressed gratitude? Or maybe they expressed it, but it seemed trite and disproportional to what you had done? It really stings, doesn't it? I mean, I am a sucker for gratitude. I mean, when my kids, I give them money and they say, oh, thank you so much, Dad, you didn't need to do that. I'm like, well, good words, here's some more. Shh, don't tell them this. But when they are grateful, I just want to like sell organs and give them money, whatever. But if there's a hint of ingratitude, of you should have, you owe me, entitlement, boy, it really changes the dynamic in a relationship, doesn't it? Gratitude is beautiful when it's expressed. Now, we're going to look at a story recorded by Dr. Luke. Of the four gospel writers, Luke was a medical doctor, and so he gave great attention to detail, as you might expect a doctor to do. And Luke will highlight in his gospel account often the kind of the down and out, the underdog, the stories of those who were often overlooked. And he tells a story about the life of Jesus in Luke 17. And it's really big picture, it's about gratitude. It's familiar, we've talked about it before, several years back, but I want us to delve into it again this morning. And I want you to kind of think about yourself and where you might land on that gratitude ranking. We can all do better, right? But be thinking of people that you could thank. Unwritten thank yous that you had good intentions of but never got around to. Or just people that have helped you get to where you are. They exist for sure. Let's have a look. Luke chapter 17. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. Now, I realize this to most people is like, wah, 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 Jesus went somewhere. But it's important to actually know, right? The setting between Samaria and Galilee. We've got a map. Here's Samaria, here's Galilee, here's kind of this region he's talking about. And if you'll notice, there's no rivers right here. This was a barren area. It was a desolate area. Nobody really went there. And the Galileans were mostly Jewish people. Samaritans were not. And this was in this middle land where there was a bit of a mix of both different kinds of people. And so we're told that Jesus was going along this area. And as he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance. Of course, they stood at a distance. Because see, this was a village that was filled with those who had leprosy. At the time, leprosy was an awful disease that was thought to be highly contagious. And so if someone came down with this disease, which often surfaced on the skin initially, then they were outcasts. They were put into this colony, a leper colony, a village where they would all live together. And the physical anguish was hard. See, it would often erode the nerves in the hands, and so you couldn't feel pain. As a result, many then would burn themselves and not know it, or suffer from wounds that wouldn't heal, and they would live together. They have to figure out a way to grow their own food. They couldn't exchange or barter with others, and so the social stigma was almost as great as the physical anguish. And Jesus comes near, and 10 villagers with leprosy, we're told, stood at a distance. That was required. They always had to be at a distance. They could not come near to someone without leprosy. It was forbidden. Now, a quick picture of what leprosy actually does. It attacks the cartilage and the bones. And so it's most pronounced in the hands, the feet, in the nose, and the ears. And that's where leprosy really deforms someone. I remember I was in Nepal. This was over 25 years ago. I had the privilege of going with a medical missionary. Now, Dr. Lewis Carter was a plastic surgeon. And 11 months of his year, he practiced plastic surgery in the US. And then for 1 month, he and his wife would go around other clinics throughout the world, and he would offer his services for free as a plastic surgeon to minister to those who otherwise couldn't afford it. And we're not talking about tummy tucks and plastic surgery like that, right? We're talking about people with leprosy. So I was in Kathmandu, outside of Kathmandu with him in Nepal. And I remember him seeing this patient with leprosy. I had never seen leprosy before. I didn't even know leprosy existed still. I thought it was just something we read about. But in fact, it is alive and well. But it is not highly contagious as they once thought. It is contagious, spread by droplets, but only after pronounced long-term repeated exposure. And it's easily treated with drugs if you're exposed. In this case, a man with advanced leprosy. And Dr. Carter told him, "I'm sorry, I'm only here for 1 week, and I see that your hands have been eroded and also your nose. But I only have time to do 1 surgery. Which one would you like?" Can you imagine that choice? I'm thinking, he couldn't pick up anything. I'm thinking, of course you're going for hands. But without a beat, he said, "My nose." He said, I need to go back into society and to see my family. I'm so ugly. I'm such an outcast. I don't want to go outside. If I can have a nose, I can always hide my hands. And so he fixed his nose. The amount of anguish that existed, that still exists for those with leprosy is monumental. And so Jesus encounters this village, and 10 of them come, and they stood at a distance, as was the protocol. And it's because of that distance that then they decide to cry out with a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And they use this phrase, Master, acknowledging that Jesus, they have heard about him, that he has power, that he can perform miracles. Perhaps they've heard of others who have been healed by him, and this is their chance. And so they get as close as they can, but it still requires a loud voice to get his attention. And they call him by name, and they call him Master. And humbly they say, "Have pity on us." This is their only moment, their only chance of a life that is changed. They are not quite dead, but they're certainly not living. They're somehow stuck in the middle, experiencing shame and isolation on top of the physical pain. "Have mercy on us, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go." Well, they heard that all the time. Go, get out of here. You have leprosy. Leave, stay away from us. They had heard go their entire lives, of diseased lives anyway. But now Jesus said, "Go, show yourself to the priests." See, the priest was entrusted with oversight over the physical maladies of this village. The priest was the one that could monitor who was sick and who wasn't. In fact, amazing detail is included in the book of Leviticus about the role of the priest interacting with those who have leprosy. Now, as you seek to do your devotionals, let me steer you away from Leviticus chapter 13. It's really hard to find anything there that's going to lift your spirit, but let's look at a little bit. "And the priest shall examine him on the 7th day. And if in his eyes the disease is checked and the disease has not spread in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up for another 7 days. The leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head hang loose. and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. And then the priest shall perform a PCR test on him. And if he's positive, he shall remain in isolation for another 7 days, even if asymptomatic and his mental health is deteriorating severely while he's surrounded by a mountain of rat tests with 2 stripes. Okay, this isn't in the Bible, but wow, quarantine and testing, it's like it's been around a long time. I had to. Okay, so the priest is the one that says, "You're clean, you can go." He is the one that has authority over their lives, the only one that can make an edict, a proclamation of when they can be released, if ever. And so these 10 who see Jesus, who see him and call him master, obey him immediately. And as they went, they were cleansed. He doesn't give them that assurance, that promise. He doesn't say, show a step of faith. How serious are you? Are you willing to go to the priest? If so, maybe a treat's waiting for you. He just tells them, and they just obey. No negotiating, no bickering, no, what if we do? What happened? I mean, they're all in. You might argue, what do they have to lose? But they obey. And as they went, they were cleansed. See, Jesus, in telling them to go to the priest, had kind of a threefold intention. On the one hand, as Leviticus points out, the priest is the one that could declare them authoritatively cleansed. And so he's following the law. He's also recognizing if 10 people en masse are healed, this is going to greatly advance the reputation of Jesus, that he has authority over disease. He also has authority over sin. If he can heal the body, he can also heal the soul. He can forgive people of sins. It will advance his mission. And it will also be an opportunity for these 10 to grow in their faith. See, God is often telling us, this is how I want you to live. This is what I want you to do. And then we have the decision like they. Do I go? Full stop? Do I obey? Do I put conditions on it? Do I bargain? Do I say, but God? Or do I just say, you said it, I believe it, I'm gonna do it? And that's the kind of faith they had, and the kind of faith that God wants you and me to have as well. That listens and obeys, that implements immediately, doesn't stall, doesn't stutter. That says, God, if you've said it, I believe it, and I'm gonna do it. And that's what they do. They went and they were cleansed. I can't imagine what it was like. I look forward one day to meeting these guys and saying, what was it like? Did it happen instantly? As they went, they were healed. Did these fingers grow back like one at a time? Did their skin clear up just with every step it got more brilliant? How did this healing occur? We don't know for sure. All we know is that it did. And it did in response to their going and obeying what Jesus said. As they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, he came back praising God in a loud voice. See, he had used a loud voice before because he couldn't get near to Jesus. A loud voice was required to get his attention. But now he can come near. And he comes back and he's up close. His loud voice now is not needed for distance. His loud voice now is just the exuberance, the praise. It's the exclamation point on his gratitude. And with a loud voice, he was praising God. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and he thanked him. And then Luke tells us, and he was a Samaritan. He, unlikely, was not Jewish. He was a Samaritan. This tells us that this group wasn't all Samaritans, that it was a mixed gathering. See, these people would have nothing to do with one another, generally. They were so different, so distinct, such animosity that they would not normally dwell together. But pain has a way of bringing people together that otherwise wouldn't be, doesn't it? And so their disease was a greater bonder for them than the distinctive differences they had. And this one, a Samaritan, an outcast, is the one that comes back and thanks him. Again, Luke will highlight in his gospel the outcast, the unlikely, the outsider. And here he says this leper already is an outcast, but he was a Samaritan too. Wow. They wouldn't have seen that coming. And then Jesus asked a question. Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? In the Greek language, this is kind of changed the order. It's to highlight the reality of their absence. In the Greek, it would say the other 9, where? As in, like, where the heck are the other 9? Jesus never asks questions because he doesn't know the answer. But in this moment, with rhetorical questions, he's pointing out the absurdity of the fact that everybody was healed with only a 10% gratitude ratio. I don't know if there's anything to that 10%. I don't know if we kind of subdivided sections, if we would find only one grateful person per 10. I doubt it. But I do wonder in my life, are there 9 things I'm missing? For every thing I point out or say of gratitude, thankfulness, are there things I'm missing along the way, opportunities that are missed, where I haven't completed the loop, I haven't encouraged, I haven't acknowledged? It's worth thinking about, isn't it? Here's another question. Were the 9 grateful? Oh, I think they were. I mean, how are you not grateful? You're healed. You're released. The priest says, go, resume life. Go find your wife and kids. I mean, can you imagine? Of course they were grateful. They felt grateful, but they didn't express it. See, it's the expressing it that misses the point, the opportunity. Unexpressed gratitude is experienced by others as ingratitude, entitlement. It's about time. I deserve it. Unexpressed gratitude comes across as ingratitude. And here's the thing. The recipient is the one that acknowledges that sees that feels the pain, right? The victim, if you've done something and somebody didn't express gratitude, you feel it. It feels horrible. But the perpetrator, the one who just got the blessing and ran right on, they don't even know it, right? They're oblivious. They're busy. They're caught up in their own life. They're moving on to the next thing. For whatever reason, they move on and don't realize the violation that has occurred. Ingratitude speaks volumes, but it's usually only the victim that hears that. Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner, this Samaritan, this outcast? Is this really the only one? Then Jesus said to him, rise and go. Your faith has made you well. He ends on a positive note. He commends the guy, but he also calls out the other 9 who are on their way to a different part of their life. You know, here is a picture, extra credit if you can name him. I'm an expert on Chinese history today, just today. It all evaporates about 4:30 today. This is Emperor Qianlong, and he is the 5th emperor of the Qing dynasty in the 1700s. Now, so what? Well, you may not realize this, but it is this particular emperor that stories vary, but that went undercover, so to speak. He is the one that is credited with taking the form of a servant at a tea and actually serving tea to people who knew he was the emperor, even though he wasn't dressed like it. And they were so uncomfortable being served by the emperor, his protege that knew what he was doing. They decided, we've got to find a way to express our thanks. Most of you know where we're going on this, right? This is that tradition at tea when somebody fills your cup, where you can maintain a conversation, and with the tap of a finger or 2 or 3, you can acknowledge what just happened. You can express gratitude with a few taps on the table. Now, as I understand it, the story is originally it was 3 taps to acknowledge going prostrate before the emperor. But then because of efficiency, 3 is so hard. Sometimes 2 or even 1, a tap of the table to acknowledge gratitude to someone who has served you without even speaking a word, without even turning your head. You can maintain a conversation and say thank you at the same time. It's brilliant. Most of us do pretty well at that, I'd say. We tap a lot of tables. But there's probably other areas where gratitude just doesn't get expressed. And so, here's the challenge for us all, is that we can all grow in gratitude. Not just the warm feeling you have inside, you already got that already, but expressing gratitude to those around you who have helped you get to where you are. You didn't do it by yourself. Others have fanned the flame. They have assisted. They have helped you be who you are, become who you are, advance to where you are, whatever it looks like. You have a host of other people that you can express gratitude to. And so let's do this. Let's express it more often. Let's be more intentional. Let's complete the loop. Let's not leave people in the wake of our own self-centeredness by refusing to say thank you and acknowledging profusely what someone else has done in your life. Express it simply more often. And secondly, be personal. You know, when you see thank yous that are spoken from a stage, somebody receives an award, and they say, I want to thank Jimmy and Bobby and Carol and Sam for all that they've done. And then they always say this, right? And all the other people. It's like a big blanket thank you in case I forget. And I think all those other people are like, say my name. Like all the other people means nothing, right? It is only to protect the person from possibly forgetting a name, but it doesn't land in anybody's heart. If you're not personal, it's like you didn't even say it. So you gotta be personal. Think about a name, and you also need to be specific. Exactly what are you grateful for, right? If there's a difference between giving a compliment and expressing gratitude, right? They land differently. You can see someone and go, wow, great shirt, love that shirt. And then it's just about the shirt. But if you say, man, you have got great taste in fashion, that's about the person. It's not just this shirt, it's all the shirts I wear. Right? See, if you make it personal, you make it specific, you have the ability, the capacity, with just a few words of intentionality in your life, you can bring life and healing and encouragement to people around you. So let's be like the one. Not the 90%, where Jesus is saying, where were you? Have you got nothing? You didn't think about even saying things? Let's be like the one who loudly expresses thanks to God. It's about the vertical, giving thanks to God for all he has done profusely, frequently, vocally. God, you have done so much. But don't over-spiritualize it and say, and because you're grateful here, means you don't have to be grateful here. Paul writes throughout his letters in the New Testament. Almost every book he writes, letter he writes, the final chapter is like, and thank you to this person, and I noticed you did this, and Anástasis, you did this, and on and on and on. He names names and thanks them for what they have done. The spiritual thing is not to be so heavenly minded that you refuse earthly good. You need to be kind and outspoken and profusely grateful to those around you as well. It comes easier for some than others, but it doesn't let any of us off the hook. I've got a lot to learn in this area, and I'm pretty sure you do as well. So let's be like the one. God, we are grateful. It starts with you. You are the giver of all good things. And so with a loud voice, we declare that you are good, that you are kind, that you are lavish, that you are generous, that you have chosen to love us in spite of who we are, that you have forgiven us when we were unlovely and obstinate. And so, God, we thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. And we thank you that you have healed our souls. And so, God, make us attuned to the people around us, the people that we unintentionally take for granted, the people that we run right by, the people that have worked so hard, that are so diligent, and yet perhaps we have not seen. God, make us aware. May we be overflowing with gratitude. It is the only right response. May we be like the one. We thank you in Jesus' name.